Welcome to another episode of I Speak African. I'm your host, Yanu, and on today's episode, I want to talk about making it in America. Making money in America when you come here as an immigrant, and because that's very important. Now, believe me, as somebody who was born in America, it's not easy. It's very hard, but if y'all follow these steps and y'all do with determination, believe me, y'all be successful. Now, step one. So before you leave Africa, the continent of Africa or the Caribbean islands, if you know somebody in the US and you trust them, connect with them. Don't keep it a secret. You need to connect with them. I know a lot of people back home who kept their arrival secrets and they suffer because of it. It's not a good idea at all. Also, these are states in America that you do not want to go to. You don't want to live in because they're either cold or they have a very low minimum wage. You don't want to go to these states. So it's Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Iowa, and South Carolina and Florida. Florida only because it's crazy there and it's racist in Florida. Y'all don't want to go to Florida. But if you end up going to Florida, it's okay. Go to Miami. I would say go to Tampa, go to Tallahassee. But if y'all want to go to Florida, go to Florida. Florida's crazy. But yeah, so here are the states that I do recommend. Virginia, not the whole entire state, just the north of Virginia. And if you want to go south, Richmond, okay. Maryland, District of Columbia, also known as Washington, D.C., New York, Texas, California, Oregon, and Washington State. Now, I mentioned California and Washington. Now, I mentioned California and Washington because those two states have a very high minimum wage. They actually have two of the highest minimum wages in America. So if you're going to do a job, you want to get paid a lot for a job that you're going to do. Like, you're going to put a lot of work into, especially if you don't have a high level of education, or if you came from back home and you just come here, then you're not going to get a really good job. Just keep it 100. You're not going to get a good job at all. You're going to be working at a grocery store. You're going to be working at a hardware store, maybe even doing Uber, but you won't get a good job. So that's why I suggested those two states, Washington State and California. But keep in mind they have a very high drug or a very big drug issue there. Like, everyone's on fentanyl. Everyone looks like a zombie. It's crazy there, But excuse me. Let me tell you another story. So earlier this month, I went to a Nigerian restaurant to get Nigerian food. And while I was there, I ordered pounded yams, egusi, jollof rice with goat meat and plantains. And then when I was asking the manager, I was like, he was like, "Oh no, we don't have any more plantains." I was like, "Okay, can you substitute it with beef pies?" And he was like, "We ran out of those too." And I was like, "All right, what can you give me? Like, what can you substitute it with?" And he was like, "I can give you extra goat meat." And I was like, "All right, extra goat meat." And then he went back to the cooks, and then he came back to me, and I was like, "Did you tell him to give me extra goat meat?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was thinking like, "Nah, he didn't tell him to give me extra goat meat." So then when my food was ready, I checked my food and I realized there was no goat meat. So the cook who brought my food, he was from Congo, and I was like, "Hey, like, did they give me extra goat meat?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, I told the manager, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I was like, no, it's not your fault. The manager's supposed to do it. He was like, "Let me go get you extra goat meat." And I was like, "All right." So he went to go get the extra goat meat, and then when he came back, he was like, do you like fufu?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "All right, I'll get you fufu too." And I was like, "For free?" And he was like, "Yeah, for free." And I was like, "Okay." So he brought back my food, and I was like, "How long you been in America?" And he was like, "A year." And I was like, "Okay, like, what are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm just working here." I was like, "What about school? Are you in school?" And he was like, "No, but I want to be an interpreter." And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Give me your number. Like, give me your number. Give me your contact information. I'm going to help you with school. Like, I'm going to help you succeed." And he was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm going to help you succeed." And the reason why I'm telling you guys this story is because it shows you that, when kindness is given to you, just reciprocate. Kindness goes a long way. So so back to the steps. So step 2, when you get to the States, I see this all the time. A lot of times from Africans, sometimes from Caribbeans. Don't go thinking that y'all better than Black Americans who are native to this country, okay? Because if that was the case, if y'all were so much better, I'm not saying everyone, but I see it too often. If y'all so much better, y'all would stay in y'all countries, fix it up, and make it better. But no, y'all come to America. So when you come to America, don't like any of that behavior. Keep it, just, it's very toxic, just keep it away. And also, I would suggest a lot of Africans and Caribbeans who don't know the history about America, especially Africans, because Caribbean history is more entwined with American history because of the geographical location or proximity. A lot of y'all, please do your research on slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, Jim Crow, segregation. Do all y'all history. Read up on it before y'all come here, so y'all will have a much better idea of how things work in America and what Black Americans go through. And just to reiterate how important that is, all civil rights leaders in this country, they fought for everyone. And they also fought for people who don't even live in America, so that when those people choose to come to America, they will live as equals or somewhat of equals, or just, they would have some dignity. So just keep that in mind. Step 3, this is very important. Do not become complacent. I see it all the time. People come here, they become complacent. Don't become complacent. Don't go get some small job that pays you a little bit, and do not compare the U.S. dollar to the currency of your country of origin. So if you come from Kenya, do not compare it to the Kenyan shilling. If you come from South Africa, do not compare it to the rand. You come from Nigeria, do not compare it to the naira. You come from Ghana, don't compare it to the CD, okay? And so forth and so forth. You cannot, okay? And if you get stuck because the thing is, you can't be complacent, because if you get stuck in a small job, you'll be working at, for a long time. And then by the time, you get older, you might have kids, you might have a family. Then you're like, oh, I'm not gonna work anymore. No, always be very intentional about what you want to accomplish. But guys, really, if you guys like the content that I'm putting out, please like and subscribe to my channel so I can put up more content in the future. Now, as an African, I see this a lot. Stop doing CNA. CNA, for those who don't know, is a certified nursing assistant. I think back home people call it a caretaker. Stop doing CNA as long-term. CNA is like the entry level of healthcare or medicine. You're supposed to go from CNA to, you can go to nursing. You don't even have to go to nursing unless you want to be a nurse, but you can go to CNA even to being a doctor. So don't do CNA. I see so many people doing CNA for 10 years. This one guy I said, how long have you been doing CNA? He was a Gambian guy. He said 10 years. I think, what are you doing CNA for 10 years for? CNA is not supposed to be a career. It's supposed to be a job. You're not supposed to do it as a career. It's very hard work, and it'll mess up break your body down. And then by the time you reach 50 or 60, you're having all types of, medical issues that you don't have the money to pay, to fix those medical issues. So do not do CNA long term. CNA is supposed to be maybe 2 to maybe 5 years, depending on if you're going to school or not. But, don't do it for too long. Like I said, even nursing, like an RN, is not a job that you're supposed to do for too long. You're actually supposed to, go from RN to either a doctor Or if you don't want to be a doctor, not everyone wants to be a doctor. So you can go, there are options. You can be a nurse practitioner. You could be a nurse anesthetist or a CRNA. You could be a midwife, or you can even be a PA. So those are good fields that you can get into that are very sustainable. You make a good amount of money, and you will make more money as you gain more experience. Like I said, if you have a dream, follow it until you accomplish it. Now here's step 4. When you get here, one of the first things you should do, look up community colleges or junior colleges. Make sure that your English is perfect. If your English is not perfect, you need to take some supplementary courses to improve your English, because English will take you a long way. I'll give you an example. My best friend, he is a medical doctor now, but before he was a bus driver and he was making $10 an hour. Now he makes well over 6 figures. So just look how far he has come. And part of it was because while in medical school, or before medical school and during medical school, he really improved his English. So if you come from a country where English is not the main language, like for example, you come from Ethiopia, Eritrea, Tanzania, or Somalia, one of those countries, or even if you come from the countries where the English colonized Africa, colonized those countries, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, wherever. Still, if you do not speak perfect English, go back, take some classes, learn perfect English, because it will become in hand. It's very needed, very, very needed. So that's one thing. Work and go to community college at the same time. Doesn't matter how long it takes you. Go to community college by day, work at night, rinse and repeat. Because listen, you don't want to end up doing Uber for 10 years. I've met so many people. A lot of times Uber drivers are Ethiopian, Somalian, Gambian, Kenyan, and I'll be like, and they're not old people. Like, I'll meet them, they'll be young, and I'm like, how long have you been in America? They'd be like 10 years. And I'm thinking, like, you've been in 10 years, and what do you have to say for it? So time goes by very, very fast, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, just look at 5 years ago, we were in a worldwide pandemic. Now we're not. So never, don't get complacent, and realize how how fast time goes. We're almost in January. With one blink, we'll be in May. So just keep that in mind. Now, step 5, whatever field you get into, make sure you go to the top, as I was saying earlier. So if you go into medicine, me personally, I would say become a doctor. Again, if you're not super ambitious and you're like, nah, I don't want to be a doctor, okay, be a nurse practitioner or be a physician assistant. Okay, if you want to go into law, be a lawyer. Don't settle at being a paralegal. No, be a lawyer. If you want to go into finance, okay, be an accountant, but make sure you get your CPA certification, because if you do not get your CPA certification as an accountant, that's going to limit you to the types of clients you can have, and the jobs you can have, and also the pay. I would not recommend being a pharmacist. Let me tell you why. Pharmacists do not make a lot of money, and they go through 4 years of pharmacy school, which is at the doctorate level. And that's why I don't think pharmacy is a good thing. I remember when I was in college, there was a pharmacist, and she was about maybe like 10 years older than me. At the time, I always thought that pharmacists made like very close to what medical doctors make, or dentists. And she was like, always like kind of joking, was like, oh no, I'm poor. And I was like, really? And then I remember like a few years ago, I looked up what a pharmacist makes, and a pharmacist makes about the same amount of money as like, a nurse practitioner. So it's like, why would you go? Don't go to school. Don't go to pharmacy school. Unless, hey, if you actually want to be a pharmacist, do it. But I would not suggest being a pharmacist. Not at all. Now, I also would encourage people to look into HVAC, like heaters and stuff. They make good money. Plumbing. electrician, especially electricians make very good money. And you can be a residential electrician where you just, you do the wiring for, cities or residential areas or, neighborhoods. Yeah. Or you can be commercial. Commercials make much more, but the schooling is longer. And whether you're a commercial or a residential, you with enough experience, you can then hire your own electricians. And now you're a boss. You make more money. You have people working under you. You know, that's a route a lot of people should go into, and that's a route I think more Americans are going into. And I can't stress this enough. As I said throughout this episode, do not become complacent because the price of living is always going up at an inflated rate, but salaries will not go up at the same rate at which the price of living is going up. So, like when I was a child, milk, eggs, very cheap. Now look at them. Milk is $5 a gallon. Eggs are like, you know, $4 for 12. And when I was a kid, milk was 50 cents. I think a dozen eggs was like maybe a quarter or 50. It was very cheap. Gas was cheap. Everything was cheap. So the price of living is just out of control. Not just that, even rent and mortgages. Buying a house is supposed to be the more expensive route. That's how it's supposed to be. Renting is supposed to be cheaper than buying a house, but now renting an apartment or even renting a house is more expensive than paying a mortgage. That's why you have people working multiple jobs just to pay their rent or their mortgage. The average rent for an apartment, like a one-bedroom apartment in America, especially on, whether it's the East Coast or the West Coast or even the South, if you live like in a nice metropolitan area, the average price for a one-bedroom apartment is going to be like $1,500. And that's if you get lucky. It's more like probably $1,900 to $2,000. And these expenses are only going to keep going up. Car bills are more expensive now. Insurance is more expensive now. Everything's just more expensive. So whatever you do, make sure whatever you plan to do, make sure you stick to it. You stay the course. You buckle down. You work hard at your job, and then also work hard in school, because also good grades will pay off too. That means you won't have to repeat courses. You're saving more money. So just keep that in mind. But thank y'all for listening to another episode of I Speak African. As I said earlier, like and subscribe to my channel so I can put out more content. You guys can email me at ispeakafrican12@gmail.com. That's one word. You guys can ask me questions and even comment. I want y'all to comment and give me ideas for future episodes. Y'all can also listen to these same episodes and download them on Spotify. Stay blessed, everyone.